Hello, class, and welcome to our lecture on middle adulthood. My name is Dr. Neil Soggie, and I will be your instructor for this course. Of course, you know that. Now, middle adulthood. That is the time that a lot of you have to look forward to. It's what most people think of when they think of adulthood. And it is characterized by that stage between the ages of 40 to 65. And it's a time of significant growth, challenges, and opportunities. And it's a phase of life where individuals really need to engage with and face some realities in life, like the choices that they have made have ruled out other opportunities. And they also reflect very much your physical health, as well as there's challenges with career and relationships and personal identity. So as we dive into middle adulthood, we'll also explore a little bit of the theories. So in today's lecture, as always, we start with a story, and then we'll explore some of the challenges and changes that a person will face, particularly in terms of their physical health and their well-being during middle adulthood. Now, as far as the psychosocial development, here we'll draw from Erik Erikson's theory, and we'll explore the concept of generativity versus stagnation and its implications for personal growth and fulfillment during this stage in life. But we'll also take a look at interpersonal relationships, and we'll dive into the dynamics of relationships, including marriage and parenting, and the challenges of the empty nest syndrome as individuals navigate the ever-evolving landscape that is middle adulthood. And finally, we'll explore a little bit of the questions of wellness and meaning, because there's a lot of choices, small little choices that happen in life. And some of those choices include a pursuit of health and wellness and also spiritual fulfillment. And so as individuals seek to find meaning and purpose within their lives, and what that looks like in middle adulthood. So I would like to begin by introducing you to Dr. Margie Lachman. Dr. Lachman is a distinguished psychologist who's known for some very groundbreaking work in middle adulthood, where she earned her PhD in psychology from Brandeis University, and has held many prestigious posts, as well as being the director of a very famous lifespan lab. And Lachman is really kind of focused on a couple of things. First off, on cognitive changes in middle adulthood, as well as psychosocial aspects of aging. And particularly, she's interested in how do people age successfully? How can they find resilience and well-being, particularly in their middle years of life? And one of Dr. Lachman's most influential contributions is her work on the concept of control beliefs and their impact on health and aging. And here she explores how individuals' perceptions of control over their lives influence their physical well-being as well as their psychological well-being. And she really highlights the importance of a sense of control that we have over our lives, and how that helps us to age more gracefully in a more successful way. And one of Dr. Lachman's seminal studies focused on that whole concept of how much perceived control do you have in your life, where it's basically how do individuals believe that they have an ability to influence or control the outcomes that happen within their lives. And she proposed that people's perceptions of control really can be categorized into two dimensions. The first is primary control, and the second is secondary control. Now, when we think of primary control, this really involves efforts to change the external environment to fit one's goals or desires. So, for example, seeking out new information and resources or support to address challenges or achieve personal objectives. And then there's secondary control, which on the other hand involves adapting one's goals and aspirations or attitudes to align with the existing reality. And our ability to change the environment and also to adapt to the environment both contribute to our sense of adjustment, our sense of acceptance, our sense of finding meaning in the circumstances that we cannot change. And through some longitudinal research studies, Dr. Lackman and her colleagues at this Lifespan Development Lab have demonstrated that individuals with a strong sense of control tend to influence this tends to influence their whole overall sense of well-being. First off, they tend to have better physical health. They also score higher on psychological well-being, and they have a much higher level of life satisfaction as compared to those with a weaker sense of control. And moreover, she found that perceptions of control aren't static, but that's something that fluctuates over time and really is a response to life events and challenges and personal experiences. And furthermore, Dr. Lackman's work has highlighted the importance of considering both the subjective perception of control, that is, I feel like I'm in control in my little everyday things, like I can choose the kind of socks I'm going to wear, I can choose how I'm going to organize my dishes, little things like that. And the objective indicators of control, like, I have a different socioeconomic status, or I have high social supports, and understanding their combined influence on health and well-being outcomes. And she emphasized that even in situations where individuals may lack objective control over their circumstances, like, for example, maybe they're struggling with chronic illness or they have caregiving responsibilities of somebody, they're still able to foster a sense of personal agency and control that can mitigate the negative impact of those kind of external controlling factors, or those stressors in their life. And so they can enhance resilience. And so overall, Dr. Lackman's research really kind of has some practical implications. First off, for interventions to help promote health and well-being in middle adulthood and beyond. And one of the ways we do that is by enhancing an individual's perceptions of control through things like cognitive behavioral strategies. And we can empower them through these different approaches and teach them how to develop a subjective sense of control within their life. And this can also help them to adapt their coping abilities and improve their overall quality of life. So as you get older, as you get into that age of 40 through to 65, that's something to just remember, that having a sense of control and not being controlled by others can go a long ways to improving your sense of well-being. And for those that are working with people at that age, it's something to be mindful of, that this is something that is, it's actually something that's valuable at all stages in life, but at this stage seems to be something that's really quite important. Now, let's explore a little bit of middle adulthood. We'll look at some of the key things within it, and then we'll look at Erickson's ideas regarding middle-aged, middle adulthood. So sometimes people will argue that middle adulthood is sometimes referred to as the prime of life, and that certainly has come to be the case as people live longer and longer. And so this really encompasses that developmental stage between early adulthood and late adulthood. And while there's no universally agreed age range, typically we can think of this as spanning between the ages 40 to 65. And in this, something to kind of be mindful of here is that there are some physical changes that start to take place. Basically, middle adulthood is characterized by gradual physical changes. And this is going to include things like an alteration in metabolism, shifts in hormones, a change in body composition. Now, while individuals may experience some decline in physical ability, such as speed and that sort of thing, as well as muscle strength and cardiovascular endurance, are often maintained at a fairly high level during this time period. In this stage, as far as career development goes, this really kind of often coincides with the peak productivity period within a person's life. This is the peak of one's career trajectory, what you've been working for during your teen years and your early adult years really kind of pays off, ideally, in the middle adulthood. And many individuals in middle adulthood are established in their professions and may experience increased job satisfaction, professional success, and financial stability. However, they may also face challenges such as work-related stress or burnout, and the need to find balance between career demands and their personal life. There are also changes in family dynamics. Now, middle adulthood is a time of where these family dynamics are changing. Individuals may experience transitions, for example, such as becoming empty nesters as children leave home. They may be caring for aging parents and becoming grandparents. And all of these transitions can bring both some joys, but also some significant challenges as individuals navigate shifting roles and responsibilities within their family. So, for example, maybe you were imagining that you were going to have an empty nest, and that was something that you were looking forward to, and all of a sudden you end up with your grandchildren living with you, and you are raising them. That can be a possibility. Another possibility is maybe you were living your whole life for your children and now they're gone, and that becomes a crisis. So there's different things that can be happening here that might be a surprise to a person. Then, of course, there's the psychosocial development, and this is where we think in terms of Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory. And in this middle adulthood here, that's really kind of characterized by the developmental task of generativity versus stagnation. We'll take a look at that. Basically, generativity involves a sense of contributing to the welfare of future generations through work, as well as kind of being successful in your own right. But it's more than that. It's about caregiving. It's about mentoring. It's about community involvement. Now, in contrast to that, stagnation is marked by feelings of being unproductive and or being self-absorbed or having a lack of purpose. And of course, there's the shift in the sense of self-concept and identity is going to happen here as well. In middle adulthood, there's time to reflect and self-evaluate. And as an individual assesses their accomplishments and their goals and their values, the questions are asked, is this worthwhile? And this can create a heightened sense of self-awareness, and person may seek to redefine their identity in light of their changing roles. And so there might be some revisiting of those identity versus role confusion ideas back that happened in the adolescent years and in the early adult years. So there can be some shifting that goes on in life, as well as shifting in relationships and all of this based upon the person's life experiences. Now, let's dive into some of the physical challenges, shall we, and how we can be proactive in health management strategies in middle adulthood. One of the big primary things is the primary physical change in middle adulthood is the shift in metabolism. And that is, as individuals age, their metabolism tends to slow down. And this is making it easier to gain weight and harder to lose the weight. And this brings with it an increased risk of obesity and related health issues such as diabetes and hypertension and heart disease. And middle adulthood is also characterized by hormone changes. Now, particularly in women during menopause, and men also experience something like that called andropause. Sometimes it's referred to as male menopause. And these hormonal fluctuations can lead to symptoms such as hot flashes, sweats, mood swings, sleep disturbances, and a change in sex drive or libido. And so managing these hormonal changes sometimes will require medical interventions or sometimes lifestyle adjustments. There's also some musculoskeletal changes. As a person transitions through this stage in life, they will experience decreased muscle mass. They lose strength and bone density. And this can increase the risk of things like osteoporosis and fractures, as well as joint stiffness and arthritis. Now, regular exercise and strength training and adequate nutrition are essential for maintaining musculoskeletal health in middle adulthood, but it's not something that's going to drastically transform your body like it would in your teen years. And so that's something, it's more about maintenance rather than significant improvement. In this middle age period, there's also a critical time for cardiovascular health management. And individuals here may experience changes in cholesterol levels and blood pressure and overall heart function. And so here is why lifestyle factors such as diet and exercise and smoking and stress management early in life play such a significant role in life, because this is where everything adds up. And you need to pay the price during this period of time. And so you need to be mindful that this plays a significant role. And so in order to prevent cardiovascular disease, such as heart attacks and strokes, it's important to have a routine of good diet and exercise, avoiding smoking and stress management, and having some stress management. During this time, there's also going to be some cognitive decline. Now, it's not necessarily a universal characteristic of middle adulthood, but there's going to be some subtle changes in cognitive function. Thinking is going to be slower in its processing. There's going to be decreased working memory, and there's going to be some occasional forgetfulness. And so here, it's important to engage in mentally stimulating activities and to, of course, maintain social connections and to adopt a healthy lifestyle that can preserve the cognitive function as long as possible. And finally, there's changes in vision and hearing. People's will begin to lose their near vision, and which is the most common thing, along with some age-related changes in visual acuity and depth perception. And similarly, hearing loss can occur due to changes in the inner ear structure. And so it's important to have regular eye exams and regular hearing assessments in order to detect these things and to be able to manage these changes effectively. Now, some other things to kind of be mindful of here. One of those is career fulfillment and stress. And of course, employment plays a significant role in the lives of people at this age because it's going to influence, their sense of identity, their financial security, and really their overall well-being. And so as a person progresses through this stage in life, it's important to recognize first off that it is often a source of fulfillment, but at the same time, a source of stress and challenge. You need to kind of be mindful of, as far as career fulfillment, people have spent many years building their careers, and they may find fulfillment in their professional accomplishments, and they are proud of their achieving their career milestones and receiving recognition for their work and experiencing personal growth and development. And all of that can contribute to a sense of purpose and satisfaction. It can also provide, and a person experiences, maybe for the first time in their life, some financial stability. There's an increased ability to meet their financial responsibilities, where they can support their family and begin to save for retirement, and they can manage their expenses such as mortgage payments and healthcare costs. And stable employment particularly provides people with a sense of security and allows them to meet their needs and to pursue their long-term goals. But there needs to be a balance between life and work. And being able to balance the demands of work with personal and family responsibilities can sometimes be, a real significant challenge. And especially if you work long hours or have job-related stress or you're commuting, all of that can take a toll on your physical and mental well-being. And that can lead to burnout and decreased job satisfaction. And so achieving a healthy work-life balance really requires both effective time management as well as boundary setting and prioritizing of self-care. And sometimes, and becomes more and more prevalent as the years go on, that there are times of career transition, such as changing jobs, pursuing further education, or retraining to enter a new industry or a new role. And while these transitions can bring opportunities for growth and advancement, they may also involve uncertainty and risk. And so it's important to, as you're working through your career, to maintain some supportive networks, to be mindful of engaging in things like career counseling, and ensuring that you are fitting and doing what you really are, what fits your personality, so that you can build some resilience and build a resilience where you are marketable in your skills. Now, despite a person's experiences and expertise, oftentimes a person in this age group is going to experience ageism and discrimination in the workplace. Sometimes there's stereotypes about older workers' capabilities or relevance. And so there can be some challenges there in overcoming age-related biases and advocating for equitable treatment in hiring. This is also a time, of course, for thinking about retirement. If you're in middle adulthood, you need to be thinking about retirement planning and preparation, because there is no time afterwards to think about it and prepare for it, because the next stage in life is retirement. So individuals here must consider saving as much as possible, investing, contributing to pensions, and also figuring out a way of having stable long-term health care coverage. And so planning ahead and seeking professional guidance can help individuals make some informed decisions about their retirement goals and their lifestyle preferences. Now, of course, while stable employment can provide people with a sense of purpose and fulfillment and financial security, unemployment can have a profound negative impact on a person's well-being, both economically and in terms of their psychological growth and health. One of the most immediate and tangible consequences of unemployment is, of course, financial strain. So a loss of income can lead to difficulty meeting basic needs such as housing and food and healthcare. And when you have people relying upon you, that strain becomes even greater. It means you're increasing your debt and increasing your financial insecurity. And unemployment during this time can disrupt some long-term financial planning and retirement savings and disrupt future prospects for economic stability. And unemployment can also take a significant toll on an individual's mental health and emotional well-being. They can feel anxious and depressed and full of stress. All of those things are common among those who are unemployed, particularly during prolonged periods of job search or underemployment. So loss of routine and social connections and a sense of purpose are often accompanied by employment that can, and all of that can kind of exacerbate feelings of isolation and low self-esteem. Now, for many individuals, work plays a central role in shaping their identity and their sense of self-worth. And so when unemployment hits, that can challenge one's sense of competence. It can challenge their purpose in life and their value to society, and that can lead to feelings of shame and inadequacy and even a loss of identity. And this existential crisis can be particularly challenging for individuals in middle adulthood who have invested significant time and effort in building their career or perhaps their business. And so unemployment can strain also relationships within families and social networks. And as individuals grapple with the financial and emotional stress of job loss, these conflicts can arise over financial decisions and who has the responsibility for different household assignments. And there can also be challenges over differing expectations for the future. And so spouses and children may also experience heightened stress and uncertainty as they adjust to changes in the family's financial situation. And the stress of unemployment can also have, of course, a detrimental effect on an individual's physical health. And this can increase the risk of conditions such as hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and even chronic pain. And so unemployed individuals may also engage in some unhealthy coping behaviors such as smoking or excessive drinking or poor dietary habits, and all of that can further compromise their well-being. And sad, but it's true that there is a cyclical nature of unemployment. And really, unemployment can create a cycle of disadvantages as a person faces barriers to re-employment, such as trying to find a skills match to what they're doing. So there can be a skills mismatch, or there can be discrimination. And there's a stigma of long-term unemployment. And so this cycle can perpetuate economic inequality and social exclusion, and particularly for marginalized groups such as older workers or individuals with disabilities and minority populations. So there's a lot of challenges to middle adulthood as well. But, and here's the core that I want to get to, generativity versus stagnation. In Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory, he proposes that individuals go through those many steps where there's a crisis or challenge, where they need to kind of clarify a value for their life. And in middle adulthood, the primary psychosocial task is generativity versus stagnation. So what do we mean by generativity? Well, generativity really refers to a sense of producing, of also having a concern for future generations, and a desire to contribute to the well-being of society. You're engaging, you're feeling successful, and you're wanting to help others. And so individuals who exhibit generativity in middle adulthood are often deeply invested in nurturing and guiding the next generation, whether that's through parenthood or mentorship or volunteering or creative expression. And so they may derive satisfaction from making meaningful contributions to their communities and leaving a positive legacy for future generations. This is also the time when you're typically kind of at the top of your career. But where are you on the spectrum? Are you in generativity, engaging in all those positive things? Are you in stagnation? In contrast to generativity, stagnation reflects a sense of self-absorption, of being disengaged, a lack of growth or progress. And individuals who experience stagnation in the middle adult years may feel stagnant in their careers or in their relationships or personal development, and they may struggle with feelings of emptiness, unfulfilled potential, and a lack of purpose or direction in life. And stagnation can lead to feelings of discontentment, restlessness, and a sense of being stuck in a rut. And according to Erikson, achieving generativity in middle adulthood involves several key developmental tasks. And I want to kind of highlight these for you. First off, it's important to establish and maintain meaningful relationships. Generative individuals cultivate strong connections with family and friends and community members, fostering a sense of belonging and interconnectedness. Generative individuals also contribute to the welfare of others. Generative individuals actively seek out opportunities to make positive contributions to society, whether that's through caregiving and philanthropy and leadership or creative endeavors. It's also about fostering personal growth and development. So these generative individuals engage in ongoing self-reflection and learning and personal growth, continually striving to evolve and adapt to life's challenges and opportunities. It's also about cultivating a sense of purpose and meaning. So a generative adult derives a sense of purpose and fulfillment from aligning their values and passions and talents with meaningful goals and aspirations beyond themselves, where they find purpose in their work. So they're serving something in their work. They find purpose in their relationships. They're serving other people, and they find purpose in contributions to society. They're serving the greater society. And the research suggests that individuals who achieve generativity in middle adulthood tend to experience greater overall well-being. They have a higher level of life satisfaction and are psychologically more healthy. They report higher levels of self-esteem and resilience and positive affect, as well as lower levels of depression and anxiety. And generativity is associated with a sense of fulfillment, connectedness, and meaning in life, contributing to a sense of wholeness and integrity. And note here, this doesn't necessarily mean success in work. I've known lots of people that have been generatively successful in their middle adult years. They weren't rich. They weren't super successful in careers, but they were engaged in meaning and in service and love and care for others. And that becomes the key. On contrast, I've known many rich people that were really stuck in stagnation. So please don't try to equate the level of your bank account with where you are in the stage, because it really has very little bearing. There's also challenges and dynamics in middle adulthood when it comes to relationships and sexuality. Now, for individuals in this age, marriage continues to be a central aspect of many of their lives. Marital relationships will typically evolve and deepen over time as the couples face new challenges and new opportunities. And the research here really suggests that marital satisfaction tends to follow kind of a U-shaped curve, with the lowest levels occurring in middle adulthood and gradually increasing again in later life. So there are some factors that go into this. There's some challenges. Learning how to navigate the changes between individuals and careers. Learning how to communicate, how to share goals, how to share intimacy, and learning those conflict resolution skills all are part of the process. Oftentimes there is, of course, marriage, divorce, and remarriage. And divorce rates have increased in recent decades, with a significant portion of divorces occurring among couples in middle age. Divorce can bring its own set of challenges and opportunities for personal growth as the individual navigates the emotional and financial and logistical aspects of ending a marriage. And one of the things that I always try to remind people is that there is that U-shaped curve. So if you hit your 40s and you're dissatisfied with your spouse, ideally it's probably better in the long run to work on that marriage than to divorce and try to find someone else, because then you have to start all over again, and there's going to be that U-shaped curve anyways. So you might as well stick with the person that you've been with and work through things, because you know that satisfaction will likely go up again as time goes on. But be that as it may, there is remarriage, and that does offer individuals a chance to find love and companionship again. But this entails oftentimes blending families and negotiating roles and boundaries and addressing unresolved issues from previous relationships. So it does make life a little more complicated. There's also the parent-child relationship. That can be children transitioning through their own stages into adulthood, and that means, of course, the empty nest phenomenon as a child leaves to pursue their own education or career or relationships. And oftentimes that transition is bittersweet, but it also provides an opportunity for parents to reconnect as couples and pursue their own personal interests and their own needs and goals. And it helps them to, in this process, to reconnect with their children as adults. And then there's also the transition to being a grandparent. That can be a significant milestone in middle adulthood, as grandparents can offer an opportunity of finding some emotional fulfillment, of bonding with their grandchildren and passing on family traditions and values. And grandparents can play some various roles in a grandchild's lives, ranging from caregiver and mentor to playmates and confidants. Now, as far as sexuality and intimacy goes, there's going to be some changes in middle adulthood. There's changes and often a decrease in sexual functioning and desire. Sometimes there's an increase, though. So while some individuals may continue to enjoy active and satisfying sex lives, others may encounter challenges such as decreased libido, menopausal symptoms, erectile dysfunction. And so all of that, there requires some open communication, oftentimes experimentation or adaptation to what works for sexual intimacy and what can bring satisfaction in the long term within the relationship. So that is something that adults will have to deal with as well. Now, I want to explore a little bit more about long-term relationships and some of the things that go into long-term relationships and marital satisfaction. One of the key things is, of course, communication and learning how to basically argue. So having some conflict resolution. And here, effective communication is essential to maintaining marital satisfaction, resolving conflicts constructively. So couples in middle adulthood are going to face some various stressors such as work demands, financial pressures, and parenting responsibilities, and all of this can strain the relationship. So being open and honest, and here's the thing, use active listening, so nod your head, give some little verbal affirmations that yes, yeah, okay. So you are actively listening and being empathetic with the person. All of that helps the couple navigate the disagreements, to express their needs and concerns, and to find mutually acceptable solutions. The key here is to not let the emotions take control. As soon as the person yells, that takes the power away from the frontal lobe, and all of a sudden it's pure destruction. There is not a constructive conflict resolution that happens. So it's important to keep things calm, to work through things with open and honest discussion, and that brings long-term satisfaction within a relationship. So it's important to maintain emotional and physical intimacy because that's something that sustains a relationship. And so couples oftentimes can still face challenges because there's demands to time and energy and coping with changes in sexual functioning and sexual desire. And so prioritizing time together and expressing appreciation and affection and exploring new ways to connect emotionally and sexually can really enhance the marital satisfaction and strengthen the bond between the partners. And this, of course, means that there will sometimes be role transitions and identity transitions. People are going to change their roles in career. They're going to change their roles in household tasks. They're going to change roles in becoming a parent. Change is part of life. And being an empty nester or a caregiver for an aging parent, that's just another change in life. It's a transition. And it's a transition in identity as well. And so negotiating these transitions is going to require some flexibility and adaptability and mutual support. And an individual that can navigate these changes in their self-concept and goals and priorities are going to maintain a sense of partnership and shared purpose. Now, inevitably, there's going to be external stressors. There's going to be life events like financial strain, health issues, and family conflicts that are going to impact marital satisfaction. But couples in middle adulthood can expect to experience job loss and illness and loss of loved ones, and there's going to be bereavement, and all of that is going to test the relationship. So it's important to be mindful of that, to learn about that, to build resilience as a couple, And that can be done through psychoeducation. It can be done through having a relationship with a professional counselor or therapist to help each other to work through these external stressors and life events, and understand that these life events are going to take a toll, because when someone is stressed, they're going to react to relationship demands differently. They might need more from the relationship, or they might react differently within the relationship, and all of that becomes important to think about. Of course, there are cultural and societal influences, so I want to speak in broad terms here because it's going to depend upon what context you're living in. But the important thing is to foster some equal caring attitudes and promote mutual respect and partnership. And in that way, you're building a healthy, satisfying relationship that can serve your needs and the needs of your partner as well. And here's part of the key to finding long-term satisfaction in a long-term relationship. And that is being concerned for the needs of your partner. It doesn't mean losing yourself. It doesn't mean being codependent. But in having a genuine concern for the well-being of your partner can go a long ways to strengthening that relationship without there being any extra effort to it, because it comes natural. Now, I want to explore a little bit about that adjustment of children leaving home, that empty nest syndrome that typically takes place when the children leave home and parents have to adjust to his household without dependent children. Now, while this transition can bring a lot of pride and accomplishment and yay, we're free, it's also going to entail some emotional adjustments and adjustment in family dynamics. The way that couples argue is going to change significantly, because oftentimes they can kind of triangulate an issue to the child, and the child becomes the problem. Whereas when the child isn't there anymore, then they have to deal with each other's issues. And parents might also have feelings of sadness or loss of connection or loneliness at this change in the household roles and routines. And so there can be some emotional reactions that take place here. There can be feelings of worry or anxiety, particularly if, is their child okay? Is their child going to succeed? And with children no longer around, all the day-to-day care and supervision leaves a lot of energy for a person to pursue personal pursuits and hobbies and goals. And that energy is going to be there. And so there needs to be a rediscovering and investing in self-care and rediscovering of a person's own interests and desires and ways of expressing themselves in a positive, generative way so that they can live a more full relationship with their partner. Now, this is obviously going to change a little bit with the marital dynamics, but overall, finding that adjustment period can be very freeing, as you're able to now focus upon relationships and reignite romance and deepen the emotional intimacy. And that's, again, where that marital satisfaction, where once you've hit that bottom of that U-shape, it will start to increase again because the focus is shifted back to your partner. Now, sometimes middle adulthood gets called the sandwich generation. It's kind of the generation that gets lost. You're balancing between caregiving responsibilities to your children and to aging adults. And it can be emotionally taxing because you're also trying to keep your career going, because this is your last chance to earn enough for your own retirement. And so as an individual goes through this middle adulthood, they can find themselves assuming caregiving responsibilities for their aging parents. And this may involve providing practical assistance with daily activities. It might be managing medical care and appointments. It might be coordinating financial affairs and offering emotional support and companionship. It might be, whatever caregiving responsibilities but they can simply be time-consuming and demanding, particularly if aging parents have complex health issues or require specialized care. And it might also mean supporting adult children. Adolescence and young adulthood is a difficult time, and as education gets extended longer and longer, there's all of those expenses. So you sometimes need to support adult children as they're involved in education expenses. You're helping them navigate their career decisions. You're providing a safety net during times of transitions for them. And you're also offering emotional support as they navigate the challenges of young adulthood. And all of this can lead to a significant financial strain upon them. You are paying for elder care expenses. You're paying for funding college tuition. You're trying to save for retirement. And managing these financial responsibilities with limited resources can go a long ways to causing some stress. And so you need to kind of be mindful of what are your limits, set some boundaries, and also be mindful of what are the immediate needs and also what are the long-term goals, and be able to allocate something to each of those things can alleviate a lot of the stress. Once it's done and organized, that can alleviate some of the stress, knowing what your limits are. We will always buy more stuff in order to and need more stuff. So when we make it clear what our limits are, then we can start to learn to live within that. Of course, there can be emotional toll being your caregiver, being part of this sandwich generation. Sometimes you can experience guilt and anxiety and feeling overwhelmed, juggling the multiple caregiving roles that a person has, and that can lead to increased stress. And so there needs to be a time of self-care, prioritizing your self-care, but also planning for the future. This includes discussing elder care preferences. It includes financial planning with aging parents, as well as establishing some clear expectations and some clear boundaries with adult children. All of that becomes very important within this process. The next thing that I want to talk with you about is the whole concept of a midlife crisis. That's been a fascinating topic and a fascinating debate in popular culture, as well as psychological discourse. It's often portrayed as a period of upheaval and existential angst, and midlife crisis is commonly associated with, feelings of being discontent, a desire for dramatic change, and in psychological terms, midlife really does kind of represent a period of significant transition and reflection. So that's true. And individuals in their 40s and 50s may confront a range of life changes and challenges like career transitions, relationship changes, health concerns, existential questions about meaning and purpose. And all of that can lead to an evaluation of one's trajectory and one's values and goals and desires. But we need to kind of recognize that there's variability in experiences. And so it's really kind of essential to recognize that midlife really does vary a lot for individuals. And while some may experience a period of dissatisfaction and upheaval, others are really able to navigate this with relative ease and with a lot of fulfillment. So there's a lot of factors that play into this, personality traits and life circumstances, support. Um, the thing to kind of be mindful of is, from a developmental perspective, is that midlife is viewed as a period of growth and consolidation. Yes, there's some reevaluation, but it isn't necessarily a crisis. So, like Eric Erickson, in his theory, would posit that, this is you have a developmental task of generativity or stagnation, but that doesn't necessarily mean a crisis. It means that you have some decisions to make. Are you going to engage in the care and well-being of others, or are you going to kind of get stagnated in your own personal desires? And that's the challenge that takes place. So is it a crisis? Is it not a crisis? Well, some would argue that there is no such thing as midlife crisis, but for some people it is a crisis. The thing to kind of be mindful of is, in order to have a positive aspect to midlife, you need to be open to the realities of, there will be some reevaluation, there will be some recognition of some errors, but that can bring self-confidence, that can bring wisdom, that can bring resilience, and it brings an opportunity to pursue new hobbies or career paths, but it also brings an opportunity to deepen relationships and have a greater, more fulfilled life, a more satisfied life. So it doesn't have to be huge, dramatic changes in order for you, as you transition through this stage. So is there a midlife crisis? I would say no more than there is for any other developmental stage. As Erickson would point out, there's a values crisis at every point in life that we need to be struggling with, whether it's basic trust versus mistrust, whether it's identity versus role confusion, whether it's intimacy versus isolation, generativity versus stagnation. It's just another one of those things that are part of life. Which path will you choose? And that brings us also to spirituality. There's a lot that goes on within spirituality through the lifespan, and I want to just talk a little bit about the journey of self-discovery and growth and transcendence that every individual goes through, because that's part of what kind of ties in with the midlife crisis, is that typical idea of a person is grappling with existential concerns and trying to cultivate a sense of meaning or purpose in life. And when there isn't that sense of purpose, then a person has to devolve to flashy things or to pleasure things. But in an existential crisis, or grappling with an existential sense of well-being, we're simply engaging in understanding life a little better. Now, James Fowler has an interesting structure for dealing with this that I'll talk about in just a few minutes. But first thing I want to kind of highlight, and that's part of what the slide is looking at, these 6 stages of what he calls faith development. I would argue it's about spirituality. I don't like the term faith development because that connotates religion necessarily. And it doesn't have to be religion. Spirituality is about the way of being of a person that might incorporate super meanings of religious views, but it doesn't have to. But there are some things that a person is dealing with in midlife. One of those things is existential questions about the nature of life and death and suffering and the meaning of existence. Because there are all these transitions and challenges and moments of introspection and reflection that take place during this time. And so it's important to dive into, what is it that I believe? What are my values? Have I committed to those values? Do I need to commit to those values? Seeking answers to questions so that they can provide both comfort but insight and a sense of direction in life. And so there's a search for meaning. Viktor Frankl, who's one of my most famous thinkers and favorite thinkers, is somebody that says that that's one of the core things in a human life, is a search for meaning. And so in the midlife, there is this quest for meaning. And that may involve exploring spiritual or religious transitions. It might mean engaging in meditations or mindfulness. It might mean experiencing meaning through creative expressions or community involvement or service to others. It's different for everybody, but it's about finding that place. Who and what will I serve? What will I engage in? What will drive my generativity in this world? And it's also about having transcendence and connection. What am I serving that is greater than myself? And how can I connect to beauty and awe and the profound insights and feelings and interconnectedness within the world? And it's also about integrating beliefs into practice. What is it that I believe? And how am I living that out in my life? Am I doing that in a way where I feel like I'm actually engaging in the world? Sometimes that means revisiting religious beliefs and traditions and questioning them and maybe setting them aside, or maybe refining them in some way. Sometimes it means revisiting childhood beliefs and setting those aside, or forging a personal path that reflects your evolving understanding of spirituality. It's about being flexible and allowing that to help you to engage the world. And that's where I want to talk about James Fowler's model of spiritual development. He did a seminal work known as Stages of Faith. I thoroughly suggest that you read that book. Particularly, there's a little section at the beginning that kind of outlines a little bit of the developmental process within life. So it's a good psychology of human development, but it's also about the quest for meaning. And he kind of walks through the different stages of spirituality that a person goes through in life. And he would argue that in stage one, what he calls intuitive projective faith in early childhood, is where a child develops a rudimentary understanding of spirituality. And this is based upon imagination. It's about stories and imitation of authorities. And it's about, whatever is said is reality. Then there becomes the mythic literal stage. And at this stage, an individual is being able to think a little more concretely, and they're able to understand religious and moral concepts in a very primitive way. And it's about adhering to rules and rituals and beliefs and prescribed cultural traditions, viewing them as absolute truths. And this is the best that you can do as you emerge into adolescence. But then, hopefully, if you're growing in your spirituality, you will transition in adolescence, in early adulthood, to what is called synthetic conventional faith or spirituality. And here's where you synthesize your beliefs and values with those of the religious community that you are engaging in. It becomes more nuanced. You start to question things a little bit. You prioritize social belonging over your own personal identity, but it's about grappling with the tension between the two. And then, as you hit middle adulthood, you find that place of individuative, reflective faith. And that's where you start to have greater autonomy. You start to question things. You're a critical thinker, and you are interested in your own personal responsibility. And so you're evaluating beliefs independently, seeking deeper understanding and meaning beyond external authorities and social norms. And so here you're engaging in self-reflection and introspection and existential questioning, which looks a lot like the midlife crisis, but it doesn't have to be a bad, destructive thing. It's about questioning things. That is what individuative reflective faith is, and that would be about stage 4. Then you have stage 5, which is late adulthood, conjunctive faith. Fowler would say. And here you have individuals progressing to recognizing that there's a paradox, an ambiguity within spirituality, that there aren't the absolutes, that it gets a lot grayer. And then sometimes you just need to jump in and engage, recognizing the limitations of human understanding while holding a space for mystery and for transcendence. And individuals in middle adulthood can begin to cultivate a more inclusive and compassionate worldview here. They recognize the interconnectedness of all beings and the importance of empathy and forgiveness and social justice in their spiritual practices. And then finally, there's stage 6, and this is a universalizing faith. Now, not everybody's going to reach this. It's a very rare thing for the exemplified few individuals that have really engaged in their spiritual journey through their life. And this is really characterized by a profound sense of interconnectedness and compassion and self-transcendence, where individual identity and individual community and individual tribe are transcended by the universal. And individuals are not defined by nations or race or creed. They're defined by the love of the divine, by the universal principles of love and justice and service. It transcends culture and religious and ideological and national and any barriers and boundaries. It's about altruism and social activism and transformative spiritual experiences. And that is one of the wonderful gifts that you can get in this age. So, the kind of spiritual development that Fowler would suggest is most common among the people that are engaged in their spirituality here would be in stage 4, which is in individuative reflective faith, where is a shift to greater autonomy and critical thinking and questioning and self-reflection, and being recognizing that there's something beyond the rules and the authority, but still struggling to figure out what that is. And of course, there are also some health and wellness issues. No longer are you able to rely upon just the natural adolescent health that you had and were able to function despite unhealthy habits. Now the habits have caught up with you. So it's important to engage in physical activity. So regular exercise is essential for maintaining your physical health and vitality in middle adulthood. And so that means engaging in aerobic activities like walking and jogging and swimming and cycling. All of those things strengthen your heart and your lungs and your muscles. It improves your flexibility, your balance, your coordination, and typically you should aim for at least an hour and a half, 2 hours of moderate to intensive exercise each week. And that also means eating healthily. Having a balanced, nutritious diet. It means limiting salt intake. It means eating nutrient-dense foods. It means limiting sugar. It means limiting saturated fats. It means including fruits and vegetables and whole grain products and lean proteins and healthy fats. It's also about stress management. Stress can kill, particularly chronic stress. And so finding a way to manage stress by, maybe it's mindfulness techniques, maybe it's deep breathing exercises, maybe it's progressive relaxation, maybe it's yoga. All of that can help to reduce the stress levels and promote relaxation. It's also, of course, important to have adequate sleep. When you struggle with sleep disturbances or insomnia, that can have a profound impact. So it's important to aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night, and to have that be a consistent sleep schedule. Shift work can be very hard on a person. So having a relaxed bedtime routine, optimize your sleeping environment, make it comfortable, make it tranquil. Avoiding caffeine, avoiding alcohol, and avoid electronic devices before bedtime will go a long ways to helping your sleep quality. It's also important to be mindful of what your body is doing, having regular health screenings. Find out what your blood pressure is. What does that mean? What is your cholesterol level? What does that mean? What's your blood sugar level? What does that mean? Also, keeping in mind your body mass index. Doing also cancer screenings and vaccinations. All of these preventative measures will go a long way to maintaining the wellness that you should be able to expect to have in your middle age. And so that's basically what I wanted to talk about. The highlight there, though, is I want you to kind of be mindful of generativity versus stagnation. And that brings us to the key terms here in this lecture. First key term is generativity. Generativity, remember, refers to a sense of concern for future generations and the desire to contribute to the well-being of society. You're making things, you're generating things. And it's really the key developmental task in middle adulthood that Erik Erikson proposes in his psychosocial theory. And here individuals strive to leave a positive legacy and make meaningful contributions to their communities. What is empty nest syndrome? Empty nest syndrome is that emotional experience of parents when their children leave home to pursue independent lives, typically during middle adulthood. And this encompasses feelings of sadness and loss and adjustment as parents adapt to an empty household and redefine their roles and relationships. Then we can also think of a midlife crisis. And we haven't talked a lot about a midlife crisis, but it's kind of something that it isn't really a thing, but it is popularized in popular culture. And this kind of refers to a period of existential angst or dissatisfaction and upheaval in the experience of some individuals in middle adulthood. And it's really kind of characterized by feelings of, I'm disillusioned, I have regret and a desire for significant change. And this is often triggered by reflecting upon my aging, my mortality, and my unfulfilled aspirations. The last thing I want to kind of be mindful of here is spiritual development, because this really kind of involves the cultivation of beliefs and values and experiences related to spirituality and to meaning and purpose in life. It doesn't necessarily mean religion. Not everybody has a religion, but everybody has a spirituality, a way of engaging the world and discovering meaning in the world and maybe finding accountability to something in the world. And it really encompasses a journey of self-discovery and growth and transcendence as an individual grapples with the existential questions and they seek deeper connections with themselves and others and the divine. And finally, just a question that will be on the quiz, or likely be on the quiz. Which of the following terms refers to a sense of concern for future generations and the desire to contribute to well-being in society? Empty nest syndrome? No, probably not that. Midlife crisis? No, probably not that. Spiritual development? No, probably not that. Generativity? There we go. So yes, the correct answer there would be generativity. So, a few closing thoughts. As a person in middle adulthood goes through these transitions, it's really essential to approach this stage of life with a sense of openness and a willingness to engage and embrace the change. Take the time, prioritize self-care, nurture some meaningful relationships, and explore avenues of personal and spiritual growth, because here is when you are able to pass on what you know, where you're able to contribute what you can, and that is the primary task at this stage, to care for others. We're strong only for a little while in life, and this is the time when you're strong and you're successful. And as you pass through that stage and become weaker and less able to do what you want, still, you know that you have engaged the world with generativity, and nobody can take that away from you. And so I'm going to leave you there, and I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I will see you in our next lecture as we talk about old age. You take care. Goodbye.